I should have known something was wrong when my mother-in-law, Diane, insisted on picking up my medications after my surgery. You need rest, Olivia, she'd said with that saccharine smile. Let me take care of everything. I was a nurse for 30 years after all. Now, lying in my hospital bed for the second time this month, I watched as Dr. Peters examined my test results with a furrowed brow. Mrs. Anderson, these symptoms don't match your post-surgery profile, she said, flipping through my chart. The dizziness, rapid heartbeat, and blood pressure drops. They're more consistent with someone taking beta blockers, not your prescribed pain medication. I closed my eyes, remembering how Diane had organized my pills in that weekly organizer. I'm just helping, she'd insisted when I questioned the different-looking tablets. These are better for you than those harsh drugs the young doctors prescribed. My husband Jake sat beside my bed, squeezing my hand. Mom's been managing your meds, he said defensively. She knows what she's doing. She was head nurse at Memorial for decades. Was she? I asked weakly, because I called Memorial last week. They'd never heard of her. Jake's face paled. That's impossible. Mom always said. Dr. Peters interrupted, holding up a pill bottle. This isn't your prescription, Mrs. Anderson. This medication could have killed you, especially mixed with your post-surgery meds. Where did you get these? My mother-in-law, I whispered. She's been picking up all my prescriptions from Maxwell Pharmacy. Dr. Peters pressed her lips together. I'm calling them now, and then I'm calling the police. Jake stood up abruptly. The police? This is ridiculous. Mom was trying to help. Help? I laughed bitterly. Jake, I've been getting sicker every day. Your mother isn't even a real nurse. You don't know that, he protested, but I could see doubt creeping into his eyes. Dr. Peters returned, her face grim. The pharmacy has video footage of someone switching Mrs. Anderson's prescriptions at the counter. They're sending it over now. And Mrs. Anderson, your mother-in-law has been filling prescriptions under 3 different names. My room phone rang. It was Julia from Maxwell Pharmacy, her voice tense. Olivia? I'm so sorry. We just reviewed the footage. Your mother-in-law didn't just switch your medications. She's been doing this to other patients. We've contacted the medical board. I looked at Jake, who had sunk back into his chair, his face ashen. I don't understand, he mumbled. Mom said she was helping. She always says she's helping. She helped my first wife too, didn't she? I asked quietly. The question I'd been afraid to voice since finding old newspaper clippings in Diane's basement. Jessica's mysterious decline after your mom moved in to nurse her back to health? Jake's head snapped up. That was different. Jessica was sick already. Was she? I pressed. Or did your mom help her get sicker? A knock at the door interrupted us. Detective Sarah Chen entered, holding a tablet. Mrs. Anderson, we need to talk about your mother-in-law, Diane Maxwell Anderson. Or should I say, Diana Maxwell Peters? She's had quite a few names, and quite a few patients who got mysteriously ill under her care. Jake's phone buzzed, a text from his mother. The doctors don't understand. I'm protecting our family. Tell Olivia to stop making trouble. Some people just aren't strong enough for our family. I watched my husband's face as he read the message, saw the moment when denial cracked and reality seeped in. He wordlessly handed his phone to Detective Chen. Jake, I said softly, how many times has your mother helped someone in the family get better? How many of them actually got better? The detective pulled out a notepad. We've linked her to 3 suspicious deaths in the past decade. All family members she was nursing back to health. All with mysterious symptoms that didn't match their original conditions. She's at our house right now, I said, suddenly remembering. Organizing more of my medications for when I get home. Detective Chen was already moving. We have officers en route. Mrs. Anderson will need a full statement. Jake stood up, his legs shaky. I'll tell you everything, he said. About Jessica, about my Aunt Marie, about all of them. I didn't want to see it. As they left to take Jake's statement, Dr. Peters adjusted my IV. We're switching you to monitored medications only. No outside prescriptions. You'll start feeling better soon. My phone lit up with a message from Diane. I heard you're making accusations. Remember, dear, stress isn't good for recovery. I have more of your special medicine ready at home. I handed the phone to the remaining officer. Sometimes the most dangerous predators are the ones who claim they're trying to help. As I settled back in my hospital bed, finally under proper care, I wondered how many others Diane had helped before someone finally checked the pharmacy footage. The security footage would tell the truth. And this time, Diane's help wouldn't be welcome anymore. The next 48 hours were a blur of police interviews, medical tests, and shocking revelations. Detective Chen had set up a laptop in my hospital room, showing me the pharmacy footage. There was Diane, clear as day, switching my medications at the counter while chatting pleasantly with an unsuspecting pharmacy tech. "We've recovered all the switched medications from your house," Detective Chen informed me. "The search also uncovered a locked box in your mother-in-law's guest room. Inside were journals dating back 15 years. She placed an evidence photo on my tray table. The journals were meticulously labeled by year, each one filled with Diane's neat handwriting. She documented everything." I asked, incredulous. "Narcissists often do," the detective replied. "They see their actions as justified. Listen to this entry from 3 weeks ago. Olivia's becoming too independent after her surgery. Like Jessica, she doesn't understand family loyalty. The new medication should help make her more compliant." A chill ran down my spine as Jake entered the room, looking exhausted. He'd spent hours at the police station, unraveling years of his mother's deceptions. "They found Jessica's medical records," he said, his voice hollow. "Mom altered her prescriptions too. The symptoms that killed her, they weren't from her original condition. They were from the medications Mom was giving her." I reached for his hand. "Jake, you couldn't have known." "Couldn't I?" His laugh was bitter. "Jessica complained about feeling worse after Mom started helping. I told her to be grateful for Mom's experience. When she died, Mom said some people just weren't strong enough for our family. She said that about everyone she's helped." Detective Chen's phone buzzed. Her expression turned serious as she read the message. "We've just received information about your mother's current location, Mr. Anderson. She's at Sacred Heart Hospital, attempting to visit a patient, your cousin Amy." "Amy just had twins," Jake said, going pale. "Mom offered to help with her postpartum care." The detective was already moving. "We have officers there. She won't get near your cousin." Hours later, we watched the news footage. Diane being led out of Sacred Heart in handcuffs, still wearing her fake nurse's ID. She'd been caught trying to access the hospital's pharmacy using credentials stolen from a real nurse named Diana Peters, the woman whose identity she'd been partially stealing. The headlines were sensational. "Angel of Death grandmother arrested," and "Family nurse's deadly care exposed." My phone had been flooding with messages from Diane's other victims' families. Each story was similar. A family member needs medical care. Diane offers to help. The patient gets mysteriously worse. "Mrs. Anderson." A nurse entered with my evening medication. "These have been verified by 3 staff members and me. You should start feeling more like yourself soon." As if on cue, Jake's phone rang, his sister Catherine. He put it on speaker. "Have you seen the news?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Mom was at Sacred Heart. She was going after Amy, just like she went after my Marcus." Marcus, Jake's nephew who died 2 years ago after a simple sports injury turned mysteriously complicated under Diane's care. "Kate," Jake said softly, "I'm so sorry. I should have listened when you said something was wrong with Marcus's recovery." "We all should have listened," Catherine replied. "Mom had us so convinced she knew best. Did you know she never even finished nursing school? The police found her old records. She dropped out after 1 semester." A knock at the door interrupted us. Dr. Peters with my latest test results. "Good news," she said. "Your system is clearing the incorrect medications. No permanent damage." Unlike her other victims, Detective Chen added, entering behind the doctor. "We've linked her to 7 deaths so far. The DA is preparing charges." Jake's phone lit up with a message from the county jail. His hands shook as he read it aloud. "Darling, don't let them turn you against me. Everything I did was for our family. Some people just aren't strong enough for our love. Olivia was making you weak, just like Jessica, just like all the others. You'll understand someday." "Block her number," I said firmly. "She doesn't get to manipulate you anymore." Jake stared at his phone for a long moment before deleting his mother's contact. "You know what the worst part is? She really believes she was helping. Every death, every accident, she thought she was protecting our family by removing people she saw as threats." Detective Chen nodded grimly. Classic angel of death syndrome combined with an extreme form of narcissistic personality disorder. She saw herself as the guardian of your family's strength. "Some guardian," Jake muttered. "She nearly killed every person who got close to us." As evening fell, Amy's husband called. Diane had been planning to stay with them for a month after the twins came home. In her guest room, they'd found a small medical bag already packed with unlabeled pills. I watched Jake as he processed each new revelation, each betrayal. His mother had spent decades building a web of lies, all while systematically removing people she deemed unworthy of her family. "I've been thinking," he said finally, "about what family really means. It's not what Mom thinks. It's not about control or strength or protecting people by hurting them. It's about love, real love." Outside my hospital window, police lights still flashed as evidence was collected from Diane's car in the parking lot. But for the first time in weeks, I felt safe. The medication fog was lifting, and with it, years of Diane's careful manipulation were finally being exposed to the light. Sometimes the most dangerous monsters are the ones who claim to love you most. But tonight, one monster's reign of terror was finally over. 3 months later, I sat in the courtroom, watching Diane take the stand. She looked smaller without her carefully crafted nurse's appearance, wearing standard prison orange instead of her usual crisp medical scrubs. The prosecutor stood, holding one of Diane's journals. "Mrs. Anderson, could you explain this entry from March 15th, the one about your daughter-in-law, Olivia?" Diane's face remained serene. "I was protecting my son. Olivia was making him soft, just like Jessica did. Sometimes love requires difficult choices." "Difficult choices?" The prosecutor's voice sharpened. "Like switching her medications? Like you did with Jessica Anderson? And Marcus Shen? And the others?" "They were weak," Diane replied, her mask finally cracking. "All of them, corrupting my family with their weakness. I made the hard decisions no one else would make. Jake needs a strong family." I felt Jake's hand tighten around mine as his mother continued her chilling testimony. In the months since her arrest, 30 years of suspicious deaths and mysterious illnesses had been linked to her care. The true scope of her actions was still unfolding. During a break in the proceedings, Amy approached us with her twins. "I can't stop thinking about what might have happened," she whispered, clutching her babies closer. "She was supposed to stay with us for a month. But she didn't," I reminded her gently. We stopped her. Catherine joined us, holding a stack of papers. "The support group is growing," she said. "We found 15 more families who lost someone under Mom's care. They all thought they were alone." The support group had been Catherine's idea, a way for Diane's victims and their families to connect, to heal. What started as a small gathering had grown into a network of survivors, all sharing similar stories of Diane's manipulation and deadly help. When court resumed, the forensic accountant testified about finding multiple prescriptions filled under various names, all paid for with cash. The pharmacy footage showed Diane systematically switching medications, always with that same caring smile. She told everyone she was a nurse at Memorial Hospital, Detective Chen testified. In reality, she was banned from their premises in 1990 after a suspicious incident with a patient. She's never held a valid nursing license. Finally, it was Jake's turn to testify. He stood steadily, avoiding his mother's gaze. "Looking back," he said, his voice clear, "there were so many signs. Jessica complained about feeling worse after Mom started managing her medications. Marcus's simple injury suddenly became life-threatening under her care. Every time someone in the family needed medical help, Mom would step in, and they'd get worse instead of better." "And what did your mother say about these incidents?" the prosecutor asked. "She always said the same thing. Some people aren't strong enough for our family." I thought she meant they were naturally weak. Now I know she was making them weak, making them sick, killing them. Diane's composure cracked. "I did it for you, Jake. Everything was for you. They were making you weak." The judge called for order as Diane was led away, still shouting about family and strength and love. During the final arguments, the prosecutor displayed photos of all known victims. Jessica's bright smile, Marcus's football photo, and dozens more, lives cut short by a woman who claimed to be helping. The verdict took only 3 hours, guilty on all counts. Multiple life sentences, no possibility of parole. As Diane was led away, she turned to Jake one last time. "You'll understand someday. A mother's love has to be strong enough to make hard choices." Jake stood, addressing his mother for the last time. "No, Mom. Real love doesn't hurt people. Real love doesn't kill. What you did wasn't love. It was control. And you'll never control our family again." Outside the courthouse, surrounded by survivors and their families, Catherine announced the formation of a foundation in memory of the victims. "The Strong Hearts Foundation will help families affected by medical abuse," she explained. "Because real strength isn't about hurting people, it's about helping them heal." Amy's twins slept peacefully in their stroller, unaware that their grandmother would spend the rest of her life in prison. They would grow up knowing only love, not control disguised as care. Later that night, Jake and I sat in our backyard, looking at stars. My health had fully recovered once I started receiving the correct medications. The fog of Diane's treatment had lifted, leaving clarity in its wake. You know what Mom never understood? Jake said quietly. Real family makes you stronger by supporting you, not by hurting people they claim are weak. My phone buzzed with a message from Catherine. Another family had come forward, another victim identified. The investigation would continue, but Diane's days of helping were over. I looked at our garden, where I'd recently planted new flowers. Unlike the ones Diane had planted, all highly toxic varieties, we discovered. These were safe, beautiful blooms meant for healing. Sometimes, I said, watching a firefly dance among the flowers, the strongest thing you can do is admit someone you loved was wrong, and then make sure they can never hurt anyone again. Jake nodded, his eyes on the stars. His mother's reign of terror was over, but the healing was just beginning. For every life she damaged in the name of love, we would build something stronger, something real. Because real family doesn't make you prove your strength through suffering. Real family helps you grow, heal, and thrive. And that's exactly what we intended to do.